Hi, everybody. Tim Hughes here. I'm the co-founder and CEO of DLA Ignite. Today, I've got with me Doug Heikkinen. Doug is actually usually sitting on the other side of the podcast. He's the person usually asking the questions, but we've got role reversal today. We're going to talk about some of the changing things that are happening currently in COVID-19 with media and content and stuff. But before we get started, Doug, tell people where they can get hold of you.
Yeah, I'm Doug Heikkinen. I'm the founder and editor of IRIS MediaWorks over in the States. You can find our site at IRIS.xyz. And if you'd like to get a hold of me specifically, it's Douglas at imediaw.com.
Fantastic. And it's IRIS as on his microphone, which is IRIS.
That's right.
.xyz if you're in the UK, but Z if you're American. Yeah. Doug, I mean, we've kind of known each other for a number of years, but have never really kind of spoken because we've kind of been on social and connected. And you run this amazing. I mean, I described it to my partner yesterday as a content portal.
That's right.
And I said, it's like she said, what's it like? I said, well, it's like you go there to get content. Is that how you would describe it?
It is. It's a place where we feel many voices should be heard rather than a few. So we connect people over here and worldwide to people who have ideas and insights to make, we're specifically kind of financial advisors, better in their businesses, to give them new ideas, ways to think about those ideas, and then how they can implement those ideas and how they can connect with people like you. So that's the point, is many voices. People are smart. They can make their own decisions on how to grow their businesses, but they need ideas and people that they can connect with to enhance them and implement them.
And you see yourself as a financial media company. What's your impression at the moment in terms of how the world is in terms of near term and medium term, and the changes that are basically taking place?
Yeah, well, welcome to the Digit-drome. And where were you if you have to be welcomed to it? Did you not know that at some point this was going to come sooner or later? You had to be paying attention to the power of social media, to Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. You had to be paying attention to companies like Netflix and their brilliant pivot to online streaming. I mean, where would we be if without Netflix and Amazon Prime and Disney Plus at this point? You had to be paying attention to your kids and their habits. I mean, they're better on devices than we are.
Yeah.
You should have been preparing for that generation anyway. I mean, look at the revenue Fortnite makes. It's $2 billion, and what your kids spend on Fortnite. I know mine does. And you know what? I don't mind that he's on Fortnite. Sometime you should watch your kids be on Fortnite, because it's amazing, the skill, the teamwork, the strategy that they need to win. And then there's dancing. So it shouldn't have taken a pandemic to awaken the business world to the Digit-drome. And it has. The world seems to have awakened at first blush. There's some movement, there's some desperation, and there's also disappointment.
I think the thing that really brought it home to me was the fact that my mother runs a wine group where she's 82 and they get together and they drink wine. And because of COVID-19, I said, why don't you do it on Zoom? And they went ballistic. So we can't do that. You can't do that. You can't run a wine group on Zoom. And she sent me a message last night saying they just ran it on Zoom. And there are so many things where people said you can't do this. It's like here in the UK, you have to see patients face to face. Right. And all of a sudden you can't see patients face to face. It has to be done over Zoom or Teams or whatever. So we're in a situation where all of these things that weren't possible are now possible.
Exactly. And it wasn't a want to move to digital, as you were saying. It's a have to move to digital.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, there are a million new Zoom users, and many new Zoom zombies as well. We're going to have a lot of funny stories about people using Zoom and what not to do. So, I'm in the content business, and we run content of all sizes, from solopreneurs to corporations. And I have to say, content production is on the upswing, but not a lot. Businesses of all sizes didn't seem equipped to talk to us more digitally, whether it be articles or podcasts. Another thing I'm seeing is, and everybody's seeing, is the capturing of your IP address. It's quite the rage. Go to somebody's site for a second, and a few minutes later, it's on your Instagram feed. It's great technology, but does it make the viewer want to engage with your product? To me, it's mostly a repellent.
Yes. Well, I think that's the classic, the fact that marketing is about interruption and broadcast, and that what people do is that they think that in the social age, what they do is they interrupt and broadcast, but do it on a social platform.
Exactly.
Rather than it being permission based, as in we form a relationship with somebody. By the way, we've got a couple of viewers. So hi, Jonas. So in terms of what lessons have you learned, and how are you applying them?
I think there's 6 lessons that I can think of, and that we've been seeing. The first one is where you work doesn't matter. A Toronto company announced this week that it was permanently moving 75% of its workforce remote.
Yeah.
And I think this is going to continue, and commercial real estate is going to be a casualty of this. That's first. The second is we've seen the power of imagination. Over here, the NFL pulled off a draft that is a huge event they had scheduled for Vegas. They were going to close the Vegas Strip to have this event, and they decided to have it all remote. And they sent cameras to, I believe, hundreds of athletes' homes, and they had a box. They opened it up. They set up the camera in their living rooms, and this thing was phenomenal. It showed the emotion of being drafted. It showed the joy of the families in their environment. There were real people, real tears. It was live. There was nothing orchestrated. It went from something that nobody thought could happen or be pulled off to a phenomenal thing. That now they're thinking, should they do that again? But they won't, because there's too much money in having the live thing.
It even made the UK news, but nobody, I don't think anybody realised the significance and the difference that was.
It was incredibly significant, and hugely different. It even made you actually, the commissioner of the league, Roger Goodell, is not a very liked man over here, and it humanized him incredibly. So, another thing you're seeing is cinemas pivoting to release movies at home. So I think we lose theaters sooner than later.
Yeah.
So the third thing, as we touched, is there's power in connection. Yeah. I'm going to go to Zoom again, and you brought this up with the wine group, but my wife's doing her Friday happy hours. We're having families reconnected with Sunday talks, and that's going to continue. Yeah. It's just going to be amazing. I think we're seeing there's power in gratitude. People want to do business with those who are thankful. So people have had time to slow down, have walks, have meaningful conversations. Being on the same boat has grounded us all and made us appreciate each other, and we're vocalizing that.
I live in London, and when we go walking, everyone says hello to each other.
Isn't that great? Yeah.
Which is amazing. Yeah. Because normally you just ignore people, but we're actually going, hello, are you okay? And that it's amazing, the sort of sense of community that it's created.
Right. The fifth thing is you can change. One of my closest friends is a fantastic personal trainer in San Francisco. And he moved his whole business to Zoom and converted his loft to a personal training center. And I'm not sure he's ever going back to the gym. And we're working on a digital strategy and a website to ensure it. I've been watching some of his Zoom workouts as we're thinking about his strategy, and people are getting an even more customized workout, no distractions. It's more intimate, and it's a wonderful thing. So no matter what business you have, you can change if you want to. And then the last thing is you can develop new habits, right? There's, think about your life 2 months ago and think about it today. And it takes 22 days to create a new habit. So when things go back to normal, I wonder what people are going to keep and what they're going to change when their real life comes back. So you're going to have a whole new set of, your life's going to change. So
I think so. I've been saying to my partner that there's, much as I love London and I love living in London, there's no reason to go to London to work. I can stay at home and I can do everything I need to here. And I think that's the difference. And we've all made big changes in our lives, and I wonder how much of that we will go back. But we're not out of this yet. There's a long way to go, and different countries are coming out of it at different speeds. What can people get working on, and how do you think we can emerge out of this as a better place?
I think it's time to really think about and decide who you are matters as a person. What your company does matters more, and figuring out who you matter to matters most. We like to ask the question in our Power Your Advice podcast, who are you, what you do, and why do you matter? And if you can't answer those three questions, you're dead in the water. You really are going to have to work on your value proposition. Do you have it? Have you mastered it? Do your clients and prospects get it? And is it bulletproof? Your value is never going to be more scrutinized and challenged than it is now. Millions of people are out of work, and every dollar somebody spends is going to be thought about and scrutinized more. And I would say work on you. Work on sharing you and why this all matters to you. People connect with people. I'm going to go back to, there's a Michael Jordan documentary on over here that we're all watching called The Last Dance. There's no sports, so Sunday nights at 7:00, everybody's watching this. And last week we learned that when Nike signed Michael to a shoe contract when they were a teeny tiny company, they were hoping to make back $3 million in the first 3 years.
Yeah.
They made back $170 million in that first year. Now, this is an extreme example, but what people loved about Michael was his commitment to his craft. He brought it every time he stepped on the court, and you can too. I think you have to elevate how you become more efficient. When you do go back to work, what can you change to incorporate into your new work style? Like we said, do you have to go back to work is the big question here. And something that I think you're going to love is, that you do is figure out how to create, atomize, and distribute your content. We're going to take this podcast that we're doing right now with our team, turn it into articles, turn those into social media, and atomize it out into the world. And that's something that you do tremendously. And lastly is communicate honestly. We're all so tired of the media. How about being different and being honest?
I think that's really key. I think, as you say, it's about the Nike Michael Jordan example. I think is great because I used this on the other day on a webinar, which is a lot of people still think that the most important thing in the world is the brand, and brand is is all right, but if you don't have a company, it doesn't really matter. And if people are short of cash, they need to do other things, and they need to look at where they're spending that cash. But if you look at Nike and Michael Jordan, if Nike says to you, "We have the best sneakers in the world," you basically don't believe them, because they would say that. Whereas Michael Jordan tells you they're the best sneakers in the world, then you believe him because he's a person, and you believe Michael Jordan. And people need to break away from the corporation and corporate speak and actually realize that it's actually individuals speaking, which is the most important thing.
You talk about that a lot on your social media posts and in your content of giving employees power.
Yes.
And I think that's great.
Yeah, it's the, if you think about take a corporation, SAP, they'll tell you they're number one, they're the market leader, and there's these features and benefits. Then you go to their competition, Oracle, they'll say they're number one, they're the market leader, and these are the features. So as far as I'm concerned as the buyer, I cannot make any difference and see any difference between those two organizations. And their corporate marketing reinforces the confusion in the marketplace by being bland and being the same as everybody else. So the only unique selling point that a company has is its people. And this is even more so within COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I totally agree with you about in terms of taking the content. Our content, anything that's been giving answers has gone up by has gone up by a factor of 10. So if it was, and that's just share, not read. So if before a piece of content got shared 3 or 4 times, it's now being shared 30 or 40 times. And there are people out there that are looking for answers for about what they're going to do in terms of their business, and then they're sharing that out, and that's majorly important. And so organizations need to take content, and as you say, you take one piece of content, and then we can take this, and then we can turn it into a written article. Then we could take it and we could turn it into small blogs, so small videos. So creating content isn't that difficult. It's just about understanding how to create content factory, which is kind of what you do.
Exactly.
So how do you feel that for the best time for people to connect and grow their tribe and gain a following and succeed in the current climate?
That's the key, isn't it? It's, as we talked about, it's important to build your brand, and as you said, but it's also important to build your personal brand. We like to say, become a star, not a comment. I was always a podcast listener, but I've become even more so now that there's more time. I go for walks with my dogs. I love to learn from others. And let me tell you how Oprah continues to be cherished. She makes it all about others. She revels in the success and achievements of everybody else. And she's continuously giving something new. Her Masterclass podcast is just fantastic. It's not about her, but well-known people sharing their journeys. No questions, just the speaker talking about their lives and what they learned and how they grew and how they became successful. It's absolutely fantastic. So what I'm saying is, figure a number of ways to evolve without flames, without the bright lights, without the bright lights. Don't be the flame. Simmer for a long time as a company and as a person.
I think that's a really good skill in terms of helping other people, not so much helping other people, but bringing people along. And that what you said about Oprah is just amazing in the way that she creates her own influence by helping other people.
Exactly.
It's a fantastic skill. So how can you personally change and make yourself better, do you think, in the current climate?
Embrace today. Be where your feet are. Don't worry about tomorrow or the next month or the next year. Be where your feet are. Go further. So instead of just wishing somebody a happy birthday, tell them why. Add a sentence or two or a memory of them on top of that. Call a client or prospect and ask them about their opinion about something or anything. Appreciate it all. We can in India you can see the mountains. There's jellyfish floating around in Venice that have never been seen before. Think about your consumption. It's time to watch everything. At this house, we've gone from 2 cars to 1 intentionally, and I bike all over. It's time to take care of the world for those after us. And lastly, remember, no one's coming. The white knight doesn't exist. Divine intervention's not going to strike. Responsibility can be overwhelming, but it's equally empowering to your independence and ability. This is on you, and you can do it.
And we're not going to go back to where we were before.
No.
Question.
No, that's over. Turn the page.
And so it's down to us to actually make whatever the new normal is going to be, both from a personal and a society point of view. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and embrace that. Don't go kicking and screaming. There's going to be people who want to go back to the way it was, and that's the way it was is not the future.
Yeah. And is there anything that you'd like to add in terms of the way that you see the world now, and the way that you saw it before, and the way you think it may be moving in the future?
I really hope that this has changed the world to become a better place for everybody. I'm so hopeful for that, but I'm not sure it's going to happen. Over here, there's been the flattening of the curve, and the curve's even gone down a little bit, and the freeways are filling up in LA. People are protesting to get back to the beaches. I just really hope people take the time to look around them, say hi to each other on the streets, and think about you have this opportunity to change everything. So don't blow it.
Thanks, Doug. I just wondered, we've got a couple of people watching. I don't know if there's any questions at all that people want to ask. There is an answer question. There was also this discussion. I'm just filling in some time to see if anybody does ask a question. Otherwise, Doug, that's been fantastic. Thank you very much for talking to us today. Remind people where they can get hold of you.
Yeah, you can go to our website, which is IRIS, IRIS, like the microphone, .xyz, and you can get in touch with me directly at douglas@imediaw.com.
Thank you, Doug. It's been really insightful. Thank you so much for coming on and spending time with us today. I know that you're a busy person, and I really appreciate you coming out and talking to us. So thank you.
Thanks so much for having me.
Hey, that's great. Thanks, Douglas. Bye.
Bye.